Time to turn to our insiders for their take on big political issues of the week. Joining us tonight, Republican consultant Alfredo Rodriguez in our Charlotte newsroom, and here in Raleigh, our Democratic consultant Brad Crone. Good to see you both. Welcome back to the program. Let's start in the 9th District tonight, a congressional race next year, which some are expecting to be very close. Democrats hoping to pick up. Just for those at home watching, let's show you who the candidates are in this race. Robert Pittenger on the Republican side is the incumbent. Mark Harris is his challenger, who only lost by 134 votes in the primary last time. The Democratic candidates at this point, Dan McCready, who's raised a lot of money, and Christian Cano, who lost by 17% to Robert Pittenger last year. Robert Pittenger has released an ad. His primary is expected to be close again. Let's take a look at a little bit of the ad released yesterday.
Christmas, a time we honor the birth of Jesus Christ. Yet some choose political correctness, attacking our faith and values, refusing to say Merry Christmas. Let's join together to honor the birth of Jesus Christ and Christmas traditions.
I've dedicated my life.
All right, so we should also tell you that Mark Harris is a pastor who's actually left his church to run for office. Alfredo, what do you make of this? It's before Christmas. We don't even have filing yet. Is Robert Pittenger nervous?
Well, I think early advertising from an incumbent is indicative of two things. One, an overwhelming amount of campaign cash to overwhelm your opponent with, or a real concern about the election contest ahead of you. And I think this is a healthy bit of both of those things. Listen, this was a close race 2 years ago. I expect that it'll be a close race this time around. With regards to the messaging in the ad, I found it a little odd, a little awkward. I think it's perfectly fine to insert faith and religious into politics, but I think when you do it the other way around and you insert politics into the Christmas season, it's a bit awkward, and so I found that strange.
Interesting. Brad, what did you make of this? I mean, is he clearly nervous about Mark Harris and trying to shore up his supporters?
Absolutely. You remember 2 years ago, he only won by less than 200 votes in the primary. So Harris is nipping at his feet and his toes. He's got a very competent consultant working with him, Andy Yates, our good friend down in Mecklenburg County. I think he's got to be worried. And clearly he has as Alfredo said, he has the cash to be able to get up and get on air. Whether it cuts through the evangelical community or not, that will remain to be seen. What you are seeing is a clear fight between the Chamber of Commerce wing of the Republican Party and your gun-toting Tea Party wing of the Republican Party.
And to that point, Alfredo, Robert Pittenger, he's been hit on this about his support for President Trump too. Is he trying to have it on both sides, and that's part of the challenge here?
Well, let me first say, I don't think that there's any doubt that Congressman Pittenger has a real issue with the political correctness run riot culture that's overwhelmed us over the last several years. I think this is just going to be a close Republican primary contest. It was 2 years ago, and it is going to be again this year. I don't think that this is indicative of any vulnerabilities, specifically with Congressman Pittenger. I just think that he's using his cash reserve early because he's taken this race very seriously.
What's interesting, though, is that, and this is really getting inside baseball here, but there's talk about whether Steve Bannon is involved with this Mark Harris.
It's a proxy primary.
Paul Shoemaker, who is a consultant for Senator Burr, as well as Tom Tillis, is working with Robert Pittenger. Is that just a perfect cosmo of Republican struggles?
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a clear showcase of the fight that you're having in the Republican Party at this point in time. Now, the Democrats are very similar, having a similar fight with incumbents. Just last week, somebody filed or announced they were going to run against David Price and run to his left. Harris is running to the right.
Someone say, is there left of David Price?
Absolutely, and same thing with Congressman Pittenger. And that tells you the state of our politics today.
Alfredo, can a Democrat win here? Robert Pittenger did win by 17%, but the DCCC seems very interested in this race. They believe they can win this. Can a Democrat beat Robert Pittenger?
I think that's just simple wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. Regardless of who wins the Republican nomination, this is going to be held by a Republican come 2018.
Brad, what do you think?
I think McGreedy's for real. I think a combat veteran both in Iraq and Afghanistan, infantry captain in the United States Marine Corps, a venture capitalist, He is building a grassroots organization. And Alfredo, I would disagree with you in the sense that I think the unaffiliated voter is going to shift, and that shift with the unaffiliated vote will catapult a Democrat to Congress there.
We'll see, and we'll see if the changing demographics in that district, if it's too soon or not. It'll be interesting to see. Guys, stick with us. We're going to take a break. Much more of their insiders, including the battle over taxes, right after this break. Welcome back. More now with our insiders with their take on the big political issues of the week. Joining us tonight, Republican consultant Alfredo Rodriguez and Democratic consultant Brad Crone. Gentlemen, welcome back. All right, let's talk a little tax reform. The president getting in the presidential limo and heading to Capitol Hill today. Democrats basically refusing now to meet with him because the president tweeted they may not matter in this. Alfredo, you've talked about it even as a Republican this year that they've got to get something done in Congress or 2018 could be troublesome. So make it or break it time. Are you nervous about this tax reform getting done?
I'm not nervous about tax reform getting done. I think it is going to get done. I think that Republicans on the whole are coming to the realization that they need something to run on in 2018. Obamacare repeal has not come to fruition. I think tax reform is going to come and get passed and get to the president's desk. So I'm not concerned, but I do stand by that. We Republicans do need a positive agenda to run on, and with Obamacare repeal not going our way earlier this year, I certainly think that we do need tax reform.
Brad, you've been following this a long time. Do you get the sense, I mean, there's all sorts of conjecture and public's this and that, but do they get it done based on just the fact that they have to get something done?
Yeah, they've got to get something done. The question is, will they get it done by the end of the year on the legislative calendar that they're working with right now? That's a real big question mark. And the president and the vice president still have selling to do with Senator Corker, with Senator Portman, a few other senators, Murkowski, Senator Collins from Maine. So he's still got some selling to do, and there's going to be a big question mark. Can he close the deal?
And we'll see how lunch went today as well. Question 2, will the House accept changes? How will they work with conference committee? Alfredo, from what you've seen, the voters, once this tax reform went into place, whatever it is, do you think what they're proposing is enough for Republican voters out there? And as Brad will mention, I'm sure independent voters.
Yeah, I think this is a huge win for the middle class. I think that the media coverage on the tax reform bill has been really disingenuous and really negative, quite frankly. This bill nearly doubles the standard deduction. It nearly doubles the child tax credit. Those are issues that directly and positively impact the middle class. This is a win for the middle class, and it also cuts taxes on business. And we have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world, we need our job creators to be incentivized to create more jobs and continue to move this economy along. So I think this is a great tax reform bill. I think it will get passed. Whether it gets passed by the end of the year or early January, I don't think that is of an issue, but it needs to get passed. I think it will get passed, and it will be a success for Republicans.
Well, here's the hypocrisy of the tax reform issue. For 8 years while Obama was in office, the Republicans absolutely cried every single day about the growing national deficit. Here you have a tax reform bill that's going to put $2.1 trillion into the national debt. The only Republican who's had the courage to say, that's not Republican conservative values is Walter Jones from Eastern North Carolina. The other thing that I found interesting about the tax reform bill is the CBO score that came out yesterday, clearly showing that the largest impact on the cost of the tax reform package will be on those who are at or near the federal poverty level. So I think those are two real big components. The last big problem that I see that he still has is multinational firms doing business offshore. And there are incentives for them to continue to keep their capitalization offshore, not to repatriate it back into the country. So those are three big issues that I see on the tax reform front that will confound the Republicans on getting the 51 votes.
Yeah, Alfredo, the hard part about this, right? I mean, I've complained about this. You have so many brilliant people that completely disagree about what this is going to mean. A lot of it is because we don't know. We don't know exactly what growth is going to be. These are all projections. But there are, while it is an upfront middle class tax cut, there are reports out there that, as years go on in the 2020s, that it could lead to increases. So is that? I guess the question is, how do we have an honest debate about this?
Well, I think the scoring is all jumbled, to be quite frank. Again, look at the facts. This nearly doubles the standard deduction, and it doubles the child tax credits. There is no way and no one that can argue that that does not benefit middle-class families. It directly and positively benefits middle-class families.
For now, but some of those things expire in 5, 7, 10 years from now.
If the growth doesn't keep up, and I'm confident that these tax cuts will grow our economy, that we won't be stagnant at below 2%, which was much of the case during the Obama years, that we will get to 3.5%, 4% economic growth every year, and that the tax cut will pay for itself.
Brad, real quick.
Well, I just disagree with my friend Alfredo. I don't think that we'll see it be a pay-go. I don't think that it will pay for itself. It hasn't in the past with President Reagan. And I think it's going to create a real additional increase on our national debt.
Well, they got to get it through first, so we'll see what happens when that happens. Gentlemen, good to see you as always. Thank you. Appreciate it. Time for one more break. When we return, the state Supreme Court set to issue a ruling in a big case between Governor Roy Cooper and the General Assembly. Can the justices' partisan leanings offer a clue as to the case's outcome? We'll talk to two experts next. Stay with us.